I gave up my integrity for a corner office and a nameplate. Worse, I gave it up to a man who used to rock me on his knee when I was a little girl. Felix was not just my boss. He was my father's best friend, a man I once called uncle. He knew I was married. He knew my father had died believing the world of him. But one night, just one carefully designed night, he asked me to trade something sacred for something powerful. And I said yes. I still wake up hearing myself whisper it. Yes. I got the promotion the next day. A raise. Applause. Celebration. And then I looked in the mirror and could not say my name without choking on it. My name is Claudia. I am 40 years old. I am a wife. And I betrayed everything I swore I would never become. Before I go on, I just want to take a moment to thank every one of you who has subscribed to this channel. Your support means everything. And to all my new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, please do. Your likes, comments, and that simple subscribe button, they are the fuel that keeps this channel going. I truly cannot wait to read your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let us go deeper into the story. Felix always had a way of commanding a room without raising his voice. He had the kind of presence that made junior staff stand a little straighter. The man wore his 60 years like a crown, silver hair, sharp suits, and a mind that never aged. He built the company I worked for from the ground up, and people treated him like a living legend. To me, he was more than a boss. He had been my father's closest friend since childhood. When my father passed away from a stroke 7 years ago, Felix delivered the eulogy. He held my mother's hand. He pulled me into his arms and told me I was strong. That same man, years later, became the one who watched me in meetings a little too long. At first, I thought I imagined it. The extra compliments. The soft invitations to have lunch in his office. But then, during our annual company retreat in Wichita, it became undeniable. He invited me for a walk along the Riverwalk. It was late. Colleagues were still at the hotel bar drinking. I had no reason to say yes, except that something inside me was craving to be seen. And he saw me. We talked about my future, my marriage, my burnout. I did not realize how much I revealed to him until I looked back later. The next Monday, he called me into his office and closed the door behind me. I remember the way he sat down, slow and deliberate. "Claudia," he said, "you deserve more. You have carried this place for 5 years, and I see it." I felt tears push behind my eyes. I had waited years for someone to say that. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "The vice president position is opening. I want you in that seat. You are ready." My heart jumped into my throat. "But," he said softly, "there are things we both know are not listed on paper." I stared at him. Silence hung between us like smoke. "You know what I mean," he added. "You are not just talented, Claudia. You are exquisite." And then he smiled. A slow, knowing smile. I went home that night and sat in the driveway for almost 20 minutes. The lights inside our house were on. My husband, Bill, was probably finishing his dinner or watching the local news like he always did. But I could not make myself turn the key and walk in. Felix had not said the words outright. He never would. He was too smart for that. But his message was clear. The promotion was mine if I gave him something that no contract could ask for. I wanted to scream. I wanted to be angry. But instead, I felt numb. What broke me was not his suggestion. It was how tempted I was. After 15 years of doing everything right, I finally felt like I had a way out of the shadows. My performance had never been enough. My silence had never been enough. But now, my body, that was suddenly valuable. I went inside and kissed Bill on the cheek. He smiled without looking up. "Dinner's in the oven," he said. I wanted to tell him everything, but I also knew I would never be able to explain it in a way that made sense. Our marriage was quiet now. Not cold, but worn down. We loved each other, but it had been a long time since I felt chosen. Felix invited me to a private dinner the following Thursday. It was not on my calendar. It was not work-related. It was just the two of us, at a restaurant outside of town where no one would recognize us. The food was perfect. The wine was better. But the silence between the compliments, that was the most powerful thing of all. At one point, he reached across the table and gently took my hand. His thumb brushed over mine like he had done it 1,000 times before. "You do not have to say anything tonight," he said. "But if you are ready to step into the life you deserve, I will be waiting." That night, when he drove me back to my car, I sat in the passenger seat with the door closed. He looked at me. I looked at the dashboard. I did not speak. I did not have to. I reached over, placed my hand over his, and gave the smallest nod. That was all he needed. I got the promotion the next day. The announcement was made at the staff meeting. Everyone clapped. Madison looked stunned. My email exploded with congratulations. But inside, I felt like I was drowning. At home, Bill cooked steak that night to celebrate. We toasted with cheap champagne in our living room. He kissed me and whispered, "I am proud of you." And I almost threw up. I excused myself and went to take a shower. But when I stepped under the hot water, I could not breathe. I sat down on the floor of the tub, let the water crash over me, and buried my face in my hands. That was the first night I cried so hard I forgot what day it was. And it would not be the last. I thought it would get easier. I thought once the guilt passed, I would settle into my new role and feel like I had earned it. But every time I sat at that corner office desk, I felt like a thief. Felix began acting like nothing had happened. He kept things professional at work, too professional, in fact. He barely made eye contact during meetings. He stopped calling me by my first name. It was always Vice President McKay or Ma'am in front of the others. But when he passed me in the hallway, I felt it. That slight pause. That look that said, "You belong to me now." I started losing sleep. I began snapping at Bill over nothing. I could not explain to him why I suddenly avoided his touch or why I stared at our wedding photo with tears running down my face. The worst part was, I still wanted the job. I still wanted the power, the respect, the authority. But I hated what I had become to get it. One afternoon, Madison, the woman I had quietly leapfrogged over, came into my office and shut the door behind her. "I just want to say congratulations again," she said. Her tone was polite, but her eyes were sharp. "You must have worked very hard to earn this." I said nothing. She smiled and walked out. That night, I opened a journal I had not touched in years. On the first page, I wrote, "What am I if I can be bought?" It hit me harder than I expected. I was not a villain, but I was not innocent either. A week later, Felix called me into his office. It was just the two of us. "Claudia," he said, "I am impressed. You have handled the position well. And if you ever want more, you know where I am." I stared at him. Then I stood. "I am done," I said. "You gave me this job because you thought I would stay quiet. But I am not that woman anymore." His smile faded. "Are you threatening me?" "No," I said. "I am just telling you that the next time you look at me, do not see someone you can control. See someone who let herself rot for your approval." And then chose to walk away. I left his office with my head high, but my heart shaking. I did not quit the job. Not yet. But I reported his behavior anonymously through the board. I started going to therapy. I confessed to Bill, and it broke him. We're still in that storm. I do not know where our marriage will land, but I do know this. The mirror no longer makes me flinch. That promotion cost me more than I thought I could survive. But it also forced me to find a version of myself I had buried long ago. My name is Claudia McKay. I am not proud of what I did, but I am done pretending I am still the same woman who said yes in silence. Thank you for watching and listening. If this story moved you or made you reflect on choices, identity, and healing, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support means the world to me, and it helps keep stories like this alive. Until next time, stay strong, stay honest, and keep writing your truth.